Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode. My name is Steve Whyte, and I created and designed the Steve Whyte podcast just to give you a place of empowerment, inspiration, wellness, and positivity. I hope that you find some healing and strength while I help you to see the beauty in the grey area. There is something quite powerful about identity and having the freedom to live a life of meaning in an authentic way. However, there are many who struggle with maintaining a healthy state of self-belief, self-worth, and general lack of fulfillment within their careers and life. This lack of confidence and untapped desire makes itself present for a variety of reasons, and it is not always easy to navigate through the fears and uncertainty of starting something new. This is where my guest today comes in. Careeta Robert-Green, a powerful woman who I've known for over a decade, and I've had the privilege of speaking at one of her events early on in my career. Careeta has invaluable experience of developing, coaching and mentoring professionals and has worked in a number of leading FTSE 100 and Fortune 500 companies alongside her own coaching company, Born with a Gift. I have seen firsthand the impact that she has had in many people's lives, and this is reaffirmed by her being an award-winning accredited and certified life coach who works with ambitious, driven professionals who feel unfulfilled in their careers to unwrap their inner gifts, sharpen their focus, and live more purposeful and fulfilled lives. It's such a blessing to have you share this space with me. Thank you for being here.
Wow, thank you. That's an amazing introduction. I'm so grateful to be here today.
We live in a time where we often can feel as though we are not where we're supposed to be in our lives. And there are a lot of social, cultural, and just life pressures which blueprint what we are supposed to be doing with our lives by a certain age or because of certain privileges that we may have. And sometimes these pressures breed fear of change, even when we know deep down that it is for the best. But because we're comfortable despite feeling not fulfilled. I just wonder if there is something that we are missing out on in this quest for achievement and accomplishment that is hindering us from seeing our true selves and what's really important to us. And I think in this place we neglect our unique gifting and purpose in life, as the gift can mean so many different things to so many different people. But what I really want to start with today is what does the word gift mean to you?
That's an amazing question to start with because gifts are very important in our lives. And when we receive a gift, we usually get really excited. So it's something special and it's usually given to us as a present in terms of the physical form. So when you say, what does a gift mean to me? To me, I look at gifts as inner gifts. So what is special and unique about us? Let's start to get excited about what we have within us. As I say, we are all born with a gift and we all have special skills, talents and gifts that we can use to help us to be successful. So my main focus is on looking within ourselves to find out what our inner gifts are. So a gift is something that is special and unique to us.
That's beautiful. And I know that sometimes other people can see the gifts in you that you cannot see yourself. And I think this is a reflection of people defining themselves by what they do. And this causes a disconnection with who they are, as their identity is tied into a label. So, for example, someone who has worked in a certain type of job for many, many years may now identify as that title, but in the process may be quenching or suppressing a gift that is linked to who they are. What are your thoughts on this, and what are some of the issues that can come with this?
Absolutely agree with you. I believe it's really, we get so attached to labels, we get so attached to societal situations and norms that we feel are the right thing to do. So for me, for example, when you mentioned about jobs, when we attach ourselves to a job, for example, if you work in a corporate career and you've reached a certain level and you feel that that's what defines you, what happens when that disappears? This is why it's so important to not attach yourself too much to a job or a label or a situation, because those things change and you're still going to be there. But then who are you if that's all you know? And that's why it's so important to understand that we are not our job title. We are not what society pushes against us or puts onto us. We are who we are.
I think that's really, really important to know, and especially with the coming generations to have access to that kind of information, because I would say that those ahead of us and even our generation, there's been a certain pathway that we have been conditioned to believe is a norm, whether it be you go to school, you go to college, you go to uni, then you get a job, and that seems to be the normal pathway. And then you get married and you have a family, and so I sometimes think that based on your level of privilege, for some people their careers are about survival, and when you go into something with the objective of just putting food on the table, just covering my bills from month to month, you may not be as picky about what you fall into. And that kind of cycle, because it was started with being a survival technique, there were no bigger ambitions attached to it. And so you can get trapped in taking on survival jobs for the whole of your life and being deeply ingrained in a system that's never been about your fulfillment, but more about a ceiling that you have to reach to make ends meet each month.
Yes, there are different situations for different people in regards to having to survive. But when it comes to gifts, you could be in a survival job, something that you are doing to survive, and still use your gift in another way. So, for example, let's just take, for example, a musician. They may not be able to jump straight to the top of their field or industry, and they may do a survival job to help them get there. And it's sometimes something that you do on the side whilst you nurture, whilst you build your gift and find a way to monetize it. The playing field is definitely not level, and people are coming in at different levels, and it is not fair for everybody. I suppose if you keep focused and stay on your long-term goals, then you can do survival jobs to help you to be able to find a way to monetize your gift or use it in a way where you might not have to do survival jobs in the future.
And so I'm a person who likes to look at spectrum. So I've just named that spectrum, which is, this isn't about me. This is about providing. This is about survival. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you may have some very ambitious people who have been attached to this dream for the whole of their lives. And because of it, they haven't progressed in life much because they are so attached to this vision, this ideal of who they think they should be, so much that they limit and hinder other areas of development in their lives. And I just wonder if there's a balance between jumping straight into your gift, if you know what it is, but also being wise with your decision making and not being on either end of the spectrum, but maybe a combination of actually what is most important. Is my fulfillment most important? Or if you've got dependents and a family, or my family most important? And then kind of merging the gap between both. And then, outside of that spectrum are those who perhaps never considered doing anything different to what they've always done. And mainly because of what I mentioned previously about being attached to a label, identifying themselves as such, and maybe that label has some limitations attached to it that make it hard to believe that there's something better or something more suitable or something more purposeful or significant and meaningful for their lives. Do you find within your line of work that there are a lot of people trapped in that cycle of either not believing that they can do more, or thinking that it's too late, that they've missed their station, or that they've missed their opportunity?
Yeah, this is a good one, because it is a balancing act. And there are different levels to the spectrum. Say, for example, somebody identifies their gift very early on. And sometimes it takes a long time to find your actual gift because it's wrapped up deep within us. And I use the analogy of like wrapping paper inside you. So you've got to unwrap your gift. Now, some people are able to do that really early on. They start peeling that paper from young. They know exactly what it is and they're able to nurture it as they go along. However, for others, they live their whole life with their gift wrapped up. They never take the time out to find exactly what it is. And why that could be painful for some people is because they're looking at people who have unwrapped their gifts and thinking, why not me? Rather than why not me? And thinking of why can't it be me and looking at how they can unwrap their inner gifts. So in regards to people on different levels of spectrums, it does come to understanding and knowing what is my gift and how can I use it to, in a way, live my life in the way that I want to live it. And there are different levels on that spectrum.
I think that's such an important issue and point to raise, in that we do live in a very comparative and comparable society, and we often look for reference points in other people, and that standard of, what society says you should be doing by a certain age. I know for a lot of women is that if you don't have children by a certain age, then you're too old, or you should be married by a certain age. And I know for guys, there's their own set of stereotypes that are attached to them also, that there's an expectation that you can make you feel as though you're not man enough, or you're not doing what you should be doing if you don't do it by a certain age. And there is this kind of overarching pressure to live up to expectations that are outside of us. But what you're describing here is something that's very personal, that's within you, that although it can be inspired by external stimuli, it's something that you have to explore from within.
Absolutely. Some of us don't spend enough time looking within ourselves to find out what that is. A lot of people over the period of time that I've been working have come up to me and said, I don't have a gift. I don't have a gift. And they are convinced that they have nothing special about them. Now, when you feel that you don't have a gift, there's nothing positive that's going to come out of that, because you spend your time looking at other people using their gifts. And again, it brings up that why not me question. Why not me? Why don't I have something special about me? And when you think, well, I do have a gift, I just need to find it, that opens up a different conversation, because then you're looking for something special within yourself. And that's a lot more positive than I don't have something special about me.
And I think that's an important point, because a lot of the things that often hinder us is negative self-talk. And with regards to what you've just said, I think it's very important for us to destigmatize our own weaknesses to ourselves and begin not to see change as a response to failure, but an opportunity, a sort of pivot to something better and new, a new direction for a new season within our lives. And I think sometimes when we try something new, it's often attached to, because something else didn't work. And we build up these failures and we say, well, maybe this time. But it's rooted in a failure. But maybe if we destigmatize the what we considered a failure and kind of accept it as part of our process that's leading us into unwrapping another layer of that paper within us, then we'll be more positioned to have a better outlook and perception of what our gifts are.
Exactly. And on the flip side to that, for those people who have identified their gifts and they've maybe achieved a certain level of success from their gift, some people get really scared because their gift is so big. Their gift is massive and it's supposed to be shared with the world. And they get so scared by it that they decide that they're going to try and hide it. They're going to try and hide their gift because they don't want to share it with the world. And that eventually leads to more pain than just sharing it anyway, because we're not in control of whether or not we share our gifts. They've been given to us for a reason. So the more we try and hide it, the more we try and control it, it impacts us negatively.
So let's discuss both sides of that then. So let's start with the individual who attaches a past failure to their next move, and perhaps that slows them down because it started in such a pessimistic space. And how do we find the balance between accepting what has always been normal to us, striving for more, but without condemning our past choices?
It's a good question. When we have failures in the past, it's how we frame it. So is it is it a lesson that we've learned? Is it something that's happened in the past to show us a way not to do it? If we look at failure as something that's happened and then that means the end, then we're going to stop and we're never going to try again. But if we take that failure and we take that lesson that we've learned from that failure and said, what is the lesson in this? What is this trying to teach me? Because sometimes these things happen and we ignore them, and then they happen again, and then we ignore them, and then they happen again, and then we're like, why is this always happening to me? Because there's a message in there that we're supposed to listen to, but we're not paying attention. So the message comes up again and again and again. And that helps with that negative self-talk that we have, because we are reaffirming this negative thing that keeps showing up in our life. So we need to pay attention to what is actually taking place and say, what is this message that's happening? What is this trying to teach me? And when you get that lesson, when you get that learning, that's the thing that can help you to elevate to that next level.
And the second part to that is, those who have identified their gifts, but they feel that this gift is so monumental that it's maybe too big for them. How can they balance their situation out to perhaps start to walk with a bit more faith and a bit less fear in the demands that may come attached to the size of their gifting?
Yes, it's a good point. And our gifts do scare us when they're big. We sometimes ask, why me? Why have I been given this massive gift to share with the world? And it could feel like you just want to go and hide in a really dark place and just be by yourself. And that is something that really needs to be worked on and developed, and that comes with nurturing the gift, getting the support, getting the help. If you've gone through trauma, get the help to get over that trauma so that you can move forward. If you need support, find a coaching group with people that actually have a similar gift or have been further than you have been with your gift, and they can help you. Get a mentor, get the support you need, because trying to do it alone is the thing that can make us feel isolated, rather than reaching out and saying, actually, I need some help, I need some support, I need a new network. And those are the things that help us to grow whilst we nurture our gift.
That's a wonderful point. Thank you very much for sharing that. I'd like to pivot a bit to the very murky waters of what a gift is and how we can identify it, because I used to have the train of thought that whatever comes easy to you, whatever you're good at, that's your gift. However, over time, I've disproved this theory or this way of thinking, as I've identified that there's a difference between skill and gift. Skill is something that you can develop by repetition, practicing, learning something new. But based on the way you started this out with your description of what a gift is, that sounds like something that's already there. So I see it as a seed, and it's always going to be there, but how much it grows is dependent on the nurture that you give it, as you've just mentioned. And so how can we identify if something is really our gift, or if it's just I'm choosing this because I'm really good at it, it's an easy option. I think back to GCSEs in school. Our choices that we pick are usually based on the subjects that we're doing well in, not necessarily the subjects we enjoy. And that in itself could be a microcosm of how we live life, in that we choose what we're good at, but sometimes that is a label in itself that actually that's not who I am. That's just something that I'm good at doing. And so I'm presenting this possibility that maybe you're not actually good at what your gifting is yet. Is that a fair observation to make?
Very good point. So people do have skills, and what you see is the people with skills, they're able to do things to a certain level by learning. It's something that could be learned in a repetitive form. Like if you form a habit, you get that skill. The people with gifts in things, they shine differently from people who have just got a skill. There's a certain magnetism that people who have got gifts, when they're in their element, when they're living their gift, it becomes very obvious to other people that that person is shining very different from everybody else who is doing the same thing as them. So although that person with the skill may get to that certain level, the person who has got that gift will outshine the rest of the people, especially if they nurture it, get the right support, and they continually develop. They will outshine people naturally because their glow is just different.
What that really highlights to me is probably as we're speaking about this, people are thinking of gifts as being this huge, magnificent thing. But I guess the gift is not something that is measurable in the sense of it's not necessarily being a superstar. Your gift may be something very local, very small, and maybe the world doesn't need to know about it. For some people, their gift may be, I'm going to be like a Beyonce. For others, it may be something a bit more purposeful that's very, very small but impactful. And so it's not to do with money, it's not to do with fame, but it's to do with unwrapping something that's always been a part of you.
Yes, and having that thing that's always been a part of you in a way that it feels good when you're doing it. You love it. It does come naturally and easily. People magnetize to you. They can see it. Someone might be really good at just making cakes, and that might be their gift. It doesn't have to be a big grand. And this is where people get confused. Oh, I have no gift because I'm not famous and I'm not out there doing amazing things. No, but you might be an amazing cake maker. Your cakes may be different from somebody who has been practicing for years. There's so many different gifts that people have. There's no one measuring how big or small your gift can be. And I think that's a very important point to make.
And so I know within your works, you help professionals, you help people who are already in careers, that side of the spectrum, who potentially have an opportunity to break that cycle and step into the unwrapping process of their gift. And that's what you help them to do. But I just wonder, as well as that, does every gift need to be manifested into a business form, or can it be something that actually you help people to unwrap this, but it's just for their own personal fulfillment?
Yep, that is absolutely true. It doesn't have to be a business, but when you've got a gift and a skill that people want or need, what happens is when you don't turn it into a business or don't turn it into a way to make income, then you end up working for someone else to make that income, doing something that you probably don't like doing. And then that is the thing that funds your gift, rather than if you used your gift in a way to earn additional income or find a way that you can help people and add value to their lives, but also receive income from it. You're always going to, unless you've got an extreme amount of wealth, you're still going to need to pay the bills. So this is where that balance comes in. You don't use your gift just to make money, but if you don't use your gift to earn an income, you're going to have to earn an income from another way.
And from what you've seen, what do you think the biggest obstacle and challenge is for many people who are in the process of deciding whether they're going to transition from one to the other? For those who you work with, who say, for example, someone who's been an accountant for 20 years and they've done it because, this is what they got their qualifications in, and then they've moved up the ranks, and then they've found themselves maybe hit a plateau of how far they can go based on their qualifications. Maybe they're giving all the higher positions to younger new graduates, and they found themselves trapped in this kind of rat race of a 9 to 5 life. And they want more. What do you think the biggest obstacle is for those types of people?
A lot of people are really scared of change. A lot of people say they want to change, but they're very scared to step outside their comfort zone. And I always reference a quote that you've said, which is, don't let your comfort zone become your prison. Because it's outside of that comfort zone that you start to open up your eyes to see what other opportunities there are. If you're closed off into a box of I'm an accountant and that's all I know, you're not going to be opening to explore what other skills or gifts or talents that you may have, because you're fixed on I'm an accountant. When you move away from that label, it enables you to open up a door so that you can explore what other gifts or skills that you may have, and then nurture those as you go along.
So it feels like that this is more of an exploration of not necessarily what the gift is, but firstly who you are. Because I'm sure there has to be a detachment period of, if you are transitioning from one to the other, that is. But if you've identified as something for the whole of your life and you've believed something to be true about you, and all of a sudden you start going down a pathway of unwrapping this gift, and as you unwrap it, you're learning more and more and more. There has to be a somewhat, I'm guessing, a gradual detachment from who you thought you were or who your former positions said you were.
We are a constant evolution. We are always evolving. And when we detach from the attachments that maybe that dream of being an accountant may not even be our dream. That might be a dream that's been passed on by our parents that we've decided to do because that's what we thought society told us to do was the right thing. But is that the thing that brings you that joy and fulfillment? And that's why that whole detachment process is very important, because is being an accountant who you really are? Or do you really want to be a dancer?
And on the flip side, you may be dancing right now and you're very great at math and your gifting is really, should be exploring accounting.
Exactly.
Yeah. You have no timing, but your math is brilliant.
Exactly.
And so this is a personal walk. And so I say it's about kind of learning about who you are. It's because who you may have told yourself that you are for many years isn't necessarily true once you start to unwrap and see the glow that you described it as of your own gift.
Absolutely. Who are we? Do we ever find that out?
I think that's a very powerful question, because essentially once you start to debunk some of the lies that you've inherited about yourself, I think you start to drop off some of the fears, the doubts, the patterns and habits of low self-worth or apprehension or pessimism that you may attach to striving for something different, something new, that change we spoke of. And so there is definitely a component to this, to actually doing work within you that can make it easier for you to commit to your truth. And once you are, I guess, free from the inner clutter of all of the labels and false beliefs that you may have adopted, then there's a bit more clarity is what I'm trying to get at. And that clarity can, on a bad day, sustain you and not make you quit on pursuing your gift. So with that in mind, is there something to be said then about giving yourself time and being patient with yourself with discovering, unwrapping your gift?
Yes, there is, definitely. It's not something that happens overnight for everybody. It's a process. And that process does take time. It takes a lot of self-reflection. It takes asking people or listening to feedback from other people. Because a lot of the times, you mentioned it very early in this conversation about sometimes we don't know what our gift is, but other people do. And they tell us, you know, when someone says you're really good at that, or they keep coming back to you for a certain thing, and it's because they like the way that you do it, because there's no one else that does it like you. So these are the things that they let you. We observe these things over time, and we don't get this message that, wow, maybe this is something that I'm really good at. We think it's just maybe, oh, it's just something that I do because they love doing it, but maybe that is your gift.
And something you just said there, you know, two words or hyphenated, self-reflection, really links to something you mentioned earlier about how much time do we really spend with ourselves. How much time do we spend learning more about ourselves? And so there is a component of the social element of actually there are people who are speaking into your lives, people who can see what you cannot see because you've got all this clutter and baggage of the labels and the patterns and who you've always been. They can see through all of that. But then there is a point where you have to see it for yourself. And that comes from spending time with yourself.
And the funny thing is we spend time with ourselves 24/7, always with ourselves, but are we with ourselves? And that's the question.
Are we with our somebody else selves?
Yes.
You know, all right, that's brilliant. So I'm sure that there are people listening who are struggling with some of the things we've spoken about and discussed today, and perhaps they know that they need to make a change. And take that leap of faith and step into something new and evolved and something that is more fulfilling and a more healthy and more glowing way of life. What advice would you give to them, and what are some of the early steps that they can take to begin their journey of transformation?
I would say start with believing that you have a gift. Start with believing that there is something special about you, that you were put on this earth for, that you have that's unique to you. If you don't believe that you have a gift, you're not going to look for it. So if you believe that you have a gift, you have something special about you, whether it's big, whether it's small, but there's something that's special about you and for the reason why you were put on the earth, that's the first step. The second step is to explore what that might look like. So do things that you love, speak to people, ask people, what do you think I'm good at? Talk to people when they come to you and ask you for advice or for help. Ask them what it is that they feel is good about you. And that self-reflection sometimes comes easier from the outside than from within. So a lot of self-reflection, a lot of personal development to work out how to find what your gift is. And then the third step is to nurture it. If you have found something that you're good at, what can you do to enhance it, to make it better? Who do you need to speak to? What help do you need to get? How do you make sure that you're at the top of whatever you're doing, if that's where you want to be? Or how can you just enjoy it by nurturing it? And I'd say those are the 3 steps that can help you in finding out what your gift is, or helping you to step into a way where you can spend more time enjoying and being more fulfilled with yourself.
I love that process, and I think that's a great 3 steps to take. And I'm sure that different people are at different stages of those steps, and they can plug themselves into where they feel they're at. Thank you so much, Careeta, for joining us, and we really, really appreciate your input, your wisdom, your knowledge and experience.
Amazing. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Some incredible food for thought and a lot of important things discussed. I do hope that you enjoyed this episode and take something away from it that can impact your life in a positive way. Please read the show description for more information on my guest and links to where you can see more of my works, and subscribe if you want to hear more. No matter where you are in the world right now, or what you have been through, or what you are currently going through, I want you to know that this is not how your story ends. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay blessed, and I wish you better days.